In this section, we're going to be going over basic compensation and promotions. There will be a more thorough advanced compensation and promotion video later in the series. But for right now, we're going to go over how do I get compensated for helping clients with some of our basic flagship products. And the very first example we're going to go over is something called an IUL, which you've already been through financial orientation, so you understand how this works. You've got upside potential with no downside market risk. You've got tax-free growth, tax-free distributions. You've got access prior to age 60, and there are a lot of other benefits that go along with it. So a very, very powerful tool. But so if you were able to help somebody with this solution as a part of their portfolio, the way you would get compensated is you take what they're putting away monthly. So we take an average client, $250 a month, times 12 months, that just annualize the premium. They're putting $3,000 a year into that IUL, into that account. And so we assume that that's their annual premium, target premium, points. Points is what your promotions and compensation is based on. So as a training associate helping this client, 25% is your contract level, 25% of 3,000 is $750. So if you help a client as a training associate, you're going to make $750 per client, assuming it's this client. As an associate, our first contract promotion, you're at a 35% contract. 35% of 3,000 is 1,050. As a senior associate, you're helping that client, you're at a 45% contract, 45% of 3,000 is 1,350. As a marketing director, this is what our junior broker position, 50% of 3,000, you're making $1,500 every time you help a client like this. And as a senior marketing director, this is our broker position. This is the highest personal production contract we have. When you help a client as a senior marketing director, 65% contract, you're making $1,950 per client that you help. And so this is only one part of our comp structure, but is a very powerful part of what we do. And obviously you can see you want to climb the ladder. And so you can either do it personally. The second part of our comp structure is something called overrides. Now, overrides, in case you don't know, you're going to learn to love that word, override. Override simply means that you benefit when someone in your organization does well. And so real quick, before I move on from here, that's not a weird concept. That doesn't make us any kind of a funky deal. I've got a very dear friend of mine. He works at Dell Computer. I was the best man in his wedding. He sits over a sales team over at Dell. So whenever his sales team does well, he, as their manager, gets a bonus. He gets compensated whenever his team does well. So that is not unique to finance or insurance, or it's not something weird. This happens in all industries around the world, everywhere, every day. So we just happen to be blessed enough to be able to take advantage of it. So if you're an associate, you've got your first promotion, you have a training associate that is in your organization, and either you're training them or the system is training them. Every time they help a family, they're going to make $750 as a training associate, but you also are going to be compensated. You're going to get the difference between your contract and theirs. So if you're at a 35% contract, they're at 25, there's a 10% spread or difference, 10% override, 10% of 3,000 is $300 that you are going to get paid. So it doesn't decrease what they get paid. They're going to get paid their $750 at their contract level. You're just going to get an override every time they help a family. The second override position we have is senior associate. And so anytime any of your associates or their training associates helps a family, you're going to get 10% override, because you're at 45, they're at 35. So you're going to get a 10% override on that. But let's say you bring somebody on, again, brand new, outside of anything else you already have going on, someone brand new, direct to you. You're a senior associate, they're a training associate. You're at 45%, they're at 25%. That's a 20% override. So every time that training associate helps a family, they're going to get paid their $750. You're going to get paid a 20% override on the 3,000 points or 3,000 annual premium. So you're going to make $600 every time they help a family. So trick question for you. Would you rather override an individual at 20% or an organization at 10%? And the answer is actually option 3. It's both. You want to have both. You don't have to give up one to have the other. You can actually do both. So now that you understand basic promotions, and actually before we move on from here, the way you get promoted from training associate to associate is 20,000 points of production. So what that means is that if this average client is 3,000 points, 20,000 divided by 3,000 be about 7 clients. 7 average size clients, and you would have production that would promote you from training associate to associate. But you can do it one of 2 ways. You can either do it personally, or you can have a couple of training associates helping with you. And so you could do a couple, they could do a couple each. And if the total production added up to 20,000 points, that would then promote you to associate. The second promotion we have to senior associate is 30,000 points of production. Not an additional 30,000 points, just 30,000 points. The difference is this has to be done over a rolling 3 months. And so don't let that overwhelm you. Rolling 3 months is simply this. If you started and went January, February, March, and you didn't get your 30,000 points, you don't have to start off again in April, May, June. Just January would fall off, February and March would stay, and you would have a chance to do it in April. So January, February, March, you miss. January would fall off, February, March, you have a chance to do it in April, okay? So very, very simple there. And so what does that come down to? So you need 30,000 points in 3 months, 10,000 points a month. You need to help 3 clients a month in your organization. Call it 4. You need to help 1 client per week for 3 months in a row in your organization, not you personally. Your organization needs to help 1 client per week, 3 months in a row, and you would get promoted to senior associate. So now that you understand how overrides work, and we can get into, again, in the more advanced videos, you'll see how the more advanced promotions work. And so instead of taking 3 months, 6 months, a year to get promoted, what if you could do it in your first 30 to 60 to 90 days? And so again, this is just one example, one way to get compensated, one way to earn your promotion. The second is something called an FIA, a fixed indexed annuity. And this is more for lump sums, people that have old IRAs, old 401ks. And so they're going to roll over a lump sum. And the benefit is they get to roll it out, get it off the roller coaster, get it into an account that only goes up, never goes down. There's zero, for the most part, zero cost and fees. It also has the option to provide a lifetime income for them. Potentially, they're going to get a bonus when they roll it in. And so there's a lot of great benefits over here as well. And so here's how this compensation works. So let's say you've got an average client between husband and wife. They've got 100 grand between the two of them in old IRAs, old 401ks. The way you get compensated is some percentage of it gets paid to the field. And so let's just assume 5% of it gets paid back to our home office, WFG. That is our points. And then that's where our compensation comes from. So $100,000 rollover, roughly about 5,000 points. So as a training associate, now that we've been through the previous comp example, 25% of 5,000 is $1,250. As a senior associate, 35% of 5,000 is $1,750. So I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, but you can see the difference in compensation as we go through this. Let me pause here, and then obviously you can see the overrides as well. And so it's amazing how that works and how simple it is. But let me address one other thing real quick. So if you were sitting down with a client and you help them roll over $100,000 from an IRA to an FIA, so that's 5,000 points. You also help them with a $250 a month IUL. That's 3,000 points. That's 8,000 points. You're almost halfway to your first promotion with 1 client. So I want to make the case that it's not as difficult as it may seem. It's actually very, very simple to hit these promotions. The only thing that's going to make it difficult is the couple inches between our two ears. It's how we think. If we think it's going to be difficult, it'll probably be difficult. If we think it's going to be easy, right, it's probably going to be easier than we think it's going to be. And so going through that, and then again, you would get paid $750 for the IUL. You're going to get paid $1,250 here. So that's $2,000. So you made $2,000 and you're halfway to your first promotion as a training associate. As a senior marketing director, you make almost $2,000 for the IUL. You make $3,000 here. So you're a little over $5,000 in compensation for helping one client. So it's a big incentive to get to the higher contract positions as soon as you can, and we're here to help you. So instead of taking 3 months, 6 months, a year to get there, we are going to try and get you there on an accelerated path and get this up and running much, much faster. So hopefully all of that was very simple, made sense. Be sure to reach out to your SMD, your CFT. Make sure you get your questions answered about how we get compensated. And again, we're going to have a more thorough, in-depth overview of compensation and promotions later on. But in the meantime, let's keep going.